Welcome to the Wire to Wire podcast. As always, it's me, your host Yusuf. Now, without further ado, let's just get right to it. NBA superstar of the Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo, recently suffered a calf injury, and that will have him out for an indefinite period of time. Now, hindsight is always 2020. So we now know that whenever we hear of a calf injury, it's usually a precursor to a potential Achilles rupture. And that can be a very catastrophic injury for an athlete, especially in the NBA, because of the movement. It can impact how a player returns, and they may never be the same player again. Now, obviously, I don't want that for a guy like Giannis. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA right now. So I hope he really takes his time with his recovery and making sure that this injury is a thing of the past and that it doesn't affect him in the future. But I do find it a little bit ironic that this injury happened a couple of days after he said that he was on pace to becoming the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. Now, it would take a lot for him to have to get to that record, but theoretically, is this something that he could do? Possibly. I would have to look and break down the numbers and the math behind it. He could possibly do it. I don't know how likely it is to happen, but I did find that part ironic. But what I found to be even more ironic is the stories and rumors that were circulating that he was in conversation with the Bucks about the future of his playing career and that there was a possibility he may leave the Bucks and play elsewhere. Now, I don't know how true those rumors are because it seems in the mainstream media for many years now, they have been pushing the narrative to try and get Giannis to leave the Milwaukee Bucks and go to a bigger market team. Now, why the mainstream media wants guys to leave small market teams to go join the big market teams, I have to wonder what's their intention behind it. It can't just be to see good basketball. I'm sure there's a business element to that as well. But with this injury happening, what does this mean for Giannis Antetokounmpo's playing career? And what does this mean for his future with the Milwaukee Bucks? Will the Milwaukee Bucks decide to trade him? But more importantly, would Giannis want to leave the Milwaukee Bucks? Or would he say, look, I delivered a championship. I did everything that I could do. I'm ready to move on and go elsewhere. Now, on the outside looking in, what I've observed about Giannis is that he is someone who values doing things the right way. After he won his championship with the Bucks, one of the first things he said at his post-game press conference was that I did it the right way. Now that he's at this point of his career where he's a veteran, he's won a championship, although the Bucks have been coming up short time and time again, they keep trying to retool the team. It doesn't seem to be working. It's tough for the team to stay healthy. What is the right way, and what does the right way look like for a guy like him? Is it him deciding to say that I'm going to go play elsewhere in hopes of trying to win? Or does he try to stick it out with Milwaukee and see what they can do? Because this season, there was a lot of high expectations for them. And unfortunately, they've been having a bit of an up and down season. I don't even believe that they're a 500 team. And they don't look like a team that's poised to make a run at a championship. But Giannis was doing everything that he could to try and keep the team afloat. And now that he has this injury, it's time for serious, tough questions to be asked. And I think the Bucks need to ask themselves these serious, tough questions. But I also think Giannis needs to ask himself the tough questions. Can I still win in this organization? Now, to be honest, I don't want to be one of those guys that is going to push him to go to a large market and say he needs to leave to a large market team. Really and truly, would it make for a nice story if he could finish his career with the team that he started and win a couple of championships along the way? Sure, that would make for a great story. But the reality is there's nothing that's happening right now that's conducive to winning in the long term. And this injury is a byproduct of the fact that he is carrying a lot of the load for the team offensively at a point in his career where he should be having that support in place, where there's someone who he can play off of and they can have a more balanced out offense. Now, I believe a lot of these calf injuries and Achilles injuries are due to the stop and go and fast nature of the game. And I do think the game needs to get to a point where it can slow down and they can play at a slower pace. But I think even for a guy like Giannis, as he's now, I believe he's 31, he's in his 30s. So he's still in his prime and he's in his prime years. But 31 in NBA years, it means you're slowly starting to creep up there. So I believe if the Bucks are really and genuinely not in a position where they could bring in more talent, bring in a playmaker, bring in guys that can take the load off of Giannis and make it easier for him, then he strongly needs to consider leaving the Bucks. Now, the team that I could think of off the top of my head would probably be the Lakers, only because I like that dynamic of him playing off of a guy like Luka Doncic. I think they would form a great 1-2 punch. Luka Doncic can focus on the playmaking. Giannis can focus more on finishing at the rim. He doesn't have to do as much offensively. He doesn't have to shoulder and carry the load of the team. And also, too, when I look at the Lakers, they have an incredible superstar in Luka Doncic. They have a great pairing going on right now with Austin Reeves, but they're still missing another star player that they could play off of that can help make things easier for everyone and really bring things home. The Lakers don't have a dominant force like, say, a Giannis. But another wild card, right? And I don't even know if this is even logistically possible. But I think even having a guy like Ja Morant play in Milwaukee alongside of a guy like Giannis, I think that would be great for both players. I think what Ja Morant needs at this point in his life is he needs to be in a city away from everything and and the only focus he has is on basketball. And I think in a city like Milwaukee, there would not be a lot of distractions. And then too, when you look at it, it's Giannis's team. Giannis will be the leader, and Ja Morant would be able to play off of him, and he can do a lot of the playmaking. He can score in key moments, and he would make things a lot easier for a guy like Giannis. So that would be a good pairing that I would like to see. Now, I don't know if the Bucks even have what it takes to do something like that. I'm just giving out some hypotheticals. If the Milwaukee Bucks want to keep a guy like Giannis on the team, then they're going to have to be realistic and start making some big moves in order to put them back in a position to win a championship again. When you look at what Oklahoma City has going on right now, they've drafted well, but they also put together a team of guys that play cohesive basketball and they work well together. So the Bucks, they need something similar. Figure out a way to get more talent alongside of a guy like Giannis if they hope to keep him. Because if they can't, all this injury is going to do is it's going to show Giannis that he is carrying too much of the load and that as a basketball player, you have a very short window because at any time injuries can take place. So he needs to maximize his window to win championships now. And that is going to put him in a position where he's going to have to look elsewhere because Milwaukee is not delivering. Now, when it comes to a team like the Knicks, I'm not really sold on them, to be honest. I don't know if, even if they get a guy like Giannis, if the surrounding pieces are enough for them to deliver a championship. Because even if the Knicks make a trade to get a guy like Giannis, that would probably mean giving up a lot of pieces. And then going to New York, he's only going to find himself in the exact same position that he finds himself now with Milwaukee. What he needs is he needs to find a team that can afford to bring him on board without giving up too many pieces for him. And that way the team that he goes to didn't have to gut their whole roster just to get him on board. And really and truly, the only team that I could see being able to pull off a move like that would be the Lakers. But I think in the near future, the Lakers need to try to figure out a way that they can try to get him on board and pair him with a guy like Luka while also keeping Austin Reeves. Now, I don't know the machinations of how they're going to do it, but if he was going to leave, that's really the team that stands out to me as being able to have the best shot of getting him on board and putting him in the best position to win. Unless the Bucks can somehow retool their team and bring in some formidable pieces, I just think their championship window closed. And I think it's time for Giannis to have to decide. Do I want to be loyal to the team that I started with and finish it out here no matter what happens? Or do I want to be in a position to win again? And if that means leaving, then leaving. Like I said, outside looking in, I think Giannis probably would have been more willing to stay and stick it out. But after this injury, I believe that there would be a little bit more of an open mind to leave, because injuries can sometimes serve as a stark wake-up call for players. And for him, that wake-up call would be, what am I doing here? So just to conclude, if his goal is to win, then maybe it's time to start looking outside of Milwaukee. However, if he's content with his resume up until now and he's willing to stick it out and be loyal, then you stay exactly where you are. But for me, in my mind, I think it's time to strongly consider leaving Milwaukee. And I think trying to find a way to join Luka in Los Angeles and try to build and make something happen there where they can actually be a strong contender in the Western Conference. But that's all I got for you guys today. Just want to come in here and share my thoughts based on what I saw. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and share with your people. You guys can also follow me and the podcast on social media. You guys can check out my books. All of the links will be in the description. Until next time.